At the review meeting for my application for a senior teaching position, James publicly accused me of misconduct. "Daniel, you are a teacher, but you are having an affair with someone else's wife. What makes you think you can stand here to prove yourself?" I opened my phone album and showed the photo of my wedding certificate with my wife, Sophia. Unexpectedly, James also took out his wedding certificate with Sophia. Later, Sophia came to the scene. I thought she could help me clarify the facts, but she just let James's version stand. In the end, because of the scandal involving my lover, I was expelled from school by a group of parents. My parents and relatives were implicated as well. I begged Sophia to tell the truth, but she always told me to wait. Later, Sophia finally agreed to confess, but by then, I no longer needed to know. Senior title: Daniel. What makes you think you deserve to hold? Suddenly, a voice came from the entrance to the venue. James ignored the security guards and interrupted my interview. He looked at me. His face was full of anger. His tone was full of disgust. "You had an affair with my wife. You did something dishonorable. A person with your misconduct can't be a teacher. Do you want to teach a group of students with the same behavior?" The sudden accident caught me off guard. I have been teaching for many years. In order to be awarded the senior title, I have put in countless efforts. It must not be destroyed so easily. I tried to hold back my anger. "Mister, my wife and I are a legitimate couple. Please don't say anything. I don't even know you. How could I have an affair with your wife?" James sneered. "I'm talking nonsense. My wife is Sophia. How dare you say you're not her lover?" As soon as the word wife came out, I froze on the spot. When the judges saw me like this, their faces immediately turned dark. After all, if a teacher is involved in a problem of professional ethics, it will leave an indelible stain on their career. They questioned Daniel. "What is going on here? You must give us a reasonable explanation now. Otherwise, this title will be revoked immediately." Fortunately, when I married Sophia, I took a photo of the marriage certificate right away. Although I have changed phones several times, I have never deleted the photo of the marriage certificate. Seeing this situation, I immediately took out the marriage certificate and said with justification, "Look carefully. My wife and I have a marriage certificate. Don't say anything. I just took out the photo." James took out the marriage certificate from his pocket. The two people on the marriage certificate were actually my wife, Sophia, and James. What shocked me even more was that their marriage date was even earlier than Sophia and I. Seeing this, I froze for a moment. It felt like I had been struck by lightning. I couldn't believe it. James spat at me. He said, "See that steel stamp? If you deny it, we can check the ID number." Seeing James so determined, I felt a little panicked. At this time, Sophia, who should have been at work, hurriedly came. I saw Sophia discover that James and I were facing off. A flash of remorse flashed across her face, but I still asked her with a glimmer of hope, "Wife, what's going on?" As soon as I finished speaking, James took Sophia's hand and said, "You can prove that we are a legitimate couple, can't you, wife? Have you forgotten what you promised me before? Since you are here, why don't you just tell everyone here who your legitimate husband is?" Seeing Sophia hesitate, I felt a wave of unease. Under the gaze of all the teachers and judges, Sophia closed her eyes and pulled James out of the room. "It's you. Stop it. Come back with me." These two words, softly spoken by Sophia, instantly shattered all my preconceptions. The puzzled looks of the other people instantly turned to contempt. I could even hear some of my colleagues murmuring, "I never expected it. Daniel, who usually seems so proper, is actually a third party. You really can't tell the truth from appearances." Men have so many ways to make money. I couldn't help but take 2 steps forward. I was full of surprise. Sophia said, "What are you talking about?" She stiffened. After a moment of hesitation, she finally said, "I'll explain to you later." James walked away smugly. I stood still, undaunted. I could only let the rumors come at me like a flood. We had been married for 3 years. Even now, I still had expectations of her. But after checking the ID numbers, I learned the truth. It turned out that Sophia and I had a fake marriage certificate. When I stumbled home, it was already dark. I sat on the sofa, waiting for Sophia to come home and explain, but she didn't come home that night, nor did she call. I was definitely not going to get my senior title. What's more, the next day I dragged my tired body to school. I found a crowd of parents gathered outside the office. As soon as I appeared, a colleague I was on good terms with quickly grabbed hold of me. "Daniel, someone must have spread the word about yesterday's promotion meeting. Now the parents of your class have come to the school. You'd better take a day off. Go home and hide." But the parents who had caused the commotion soon found me. They immediately turned around and surrounded me. "Daniel, you must give us parents an explanation today. A teacher with your kind of character, how can I trust you to teach my child? Yes, third graders should all die. I don't want my son to grow up to be like you. Leave the school immediately. We won't let you continue teaching." Facing these aggressive parents, I was reminded of the parent meeting not long ago. They had thanked me one after the other for improving their children's grades. They said their children were very lucky to have a homeroom teacher like me. Now, I trembled with shame at their insults and the jeers of the surrounding students. No, I didn't do that kind of thing. Seeing that I was still arguing back, someone in the crowd suddenly threw a stone at me. The sharp stone hit me in the forehead. Blood immediately flowed down. "Today, together, we will eliminate the bad atmosphere in the school. Let's create a healthy learning environment for the children." After hearing this, the parents also took action. Some of them picked up the stones on the ground while others took up brooms. They desperately tried to drive me out of the school gates. Luckily, the school security arrived in time. Otherwise, I would have suffered more serious injuries. The school leaders arrived after hearing the news. Facing the angry parents, they could only keep smiling. "Dear parents, I know you are thinking of the students, but this incident concerns the privacy of teacher Daniel. Until the results of the investigation are in, we cannot." Before the leader could finish his sentence, someone shouted, "Come and look." The male teacher knew that the other person had a partner, but he still got involved. The school leaders are still trying to cover up for him. This is Jixing High School. This kind of school culture. Who would dare send their children here to study? James was live streaming. He directly pointed the camera at me, who was in a difficult situation. He raised his chin. His eyes were full of disdain. "Leader, you're not also one of Daniel's regulars, are you?" When the school leader heard this, his face turned pale. He saw the anger in my eyes. James laughed even more arrogantly. Since I had become a third party, I should have expected this kind of consequence. The netizens in the live broadcast room also supported James. I suddenly became the target of everyone. The incident became more and more serious. The school leader's face was ugly. He immediately decided to expel me. Seeing me being punished, the parents left contentedly. James also got what he wanted. The netizens even cheered and celebrated. Only I was clearly the victim, but no one wanted to hear my explanation. My phone rang. I picked it up with a heavy heart. Sophia was on the other end of the line, speaking anxiously. "Daniel, I just saw you on the news with a head injury. Where are you now? I'll have my assistant come find you. James and I aren't in a relationship like you think. I'm also very helpless. Just bear with me for a while." "Okay." Hearing her keep telling me to bear with me a little longer, I wiped the blood from my face and calmly said, "Sophia, let's get a divorce." "Oh, no, we're not even legally married." As soon as Sophia heard what I said, her voice immediately raised. With a tearful voice, she said, "No, I can't get a divorce with you. Daniel, I have my difficulties. I'm currently abroad. I guess I'll have to wait a while before I can go back. When I come back, all these things will be resolved. You just have to wait for me patiently." "Okay." I hung up on her, without saying anything else. In order to completely separate from Sophia, I packed my bags that day and moved out of the house we shared. Because of the rumors on the internet, I didn't even want to leave the house. At that time, the caregiver at the nursing home where my father was calling me. "Mr. Daniel, you have time to come over. Uncle Daniel has heard some rumors recently. He's been in a bad mood these days. My father has a heart condition. He's also getting older. He's been living in a nursing home for years." When I heard that my father's condition was not good, I rushed over immediately. As soon as he saw me, my father asked, "Is it true what they're saying on the internet? Are you and my mother Sophia really in a relationship?" Seeing my father getting thinner and thinner, I quickly shook my head and denied it. Dad, those are just rumors. Don't take it seriously. Sophia is currently abroad. When she returns, I will bring her to see you together. Perhaps it was because I was being particularly sincere. My father finally seemed to feel relieved. Seeing my father's tired appearance made my heart ache. Even if Sophia is not good to me, as long as my father is there, I am not alone. As for those discussions on the internet, I plan to let it pass on its own. After my father's health recovers, I can find an excuse to tell him, Sophia and I have divorced. Then I will start a new life with my father. But what I didn't expect was, James even let my father go. I received a call from the caregiver saying that something had happened to my father. I immediately rushed to the hospital. What happened? My father has always been in good health. How could he suddenly have a heart attack? The caregiver's eyes were red. His hands trembled slightly. He handed me a copy of the surveillance video. Today a man came to see Uncle Daniel. Then something happened to Uncle Daniel. I immediately thought of someone. In the surveillance footage, I saw James at a glance. My father saw him and immediately sat up unsteadily. He pointed at James and said, You're the one who spread rumors online and got my son cursed at. Why did you do that? What do you want today? Cough, cough. James kicked my father's hospital bed, complaining, You old fool. How dare you point at me? Your son did that kind of thing. Aren't you ashamed? Rumors. That's how Daniel deceived you. Then I'll show you what those people on the internet said. James saw that my dad had difficulty moving around and coldly forced him to read the comments from those internet users attacking me one by one. My dad had always been proud of me. Seeing the attacks from internet users on me, he couldn't believe it. Tears slowly welled up in his clouded eyes. James was not satisfied with this. He said, That's not enough. I still have something even more powerful to show you, James said. He rummaged through his phone and pulled something out. After my father read it, he suddenly suffered a heart attack. He collapsed. Tusk, Daniel, your father's mental endurance is not as good as yours. He got so angry just from this. I heard derisive laughter behind me. I immediately flew into a rage. I rushed up to James and yelled, You've ruined my father. I won't let you get away with it. Before I could throw a punch, Sophia's bodyguard quickly grabbed my wrist. I recognized the bodyguard. He was one of Sophia's men. Seeing my surprised expression, the bodyguard said sternly, We are following Sophia's instructions to protect Mr. James. Mr. Daniel, please calm down, he added. The surveillance data in your hand. Please hand it over to me. I heard that they wanted to take the evidence in my hand. I immediately resisted desperately, but in the face of the tall bodyguard, my struggle was useless. Sophia watched them take the surveillance as they watched, and immediately asked the bodyguard to contact me. She said helplessly and guiltily on the phone, Daniel, I have to protect James. Dad, I have already hired the best doctor. Stop it. I stare at him with wide eyes. I shout hoarsely at Sophia, You don't deserve to be called Dad. Sophia, I hate you. Before the bodyguard escorts him away, James looks at me, lost in thought, staring at the emergency room. He smiles softly and says, You know what I showed your father at the end? He shakes his phone. There's a photo on it. It's a photo of a maternity hospital here. The person in the photo is Sophia, who said she was abroad. I told your father Sophia is pregnant. Seeing my surprised expression, James laughed even more happily. Unfortunately, she is pregnant with my child. Even if Sophia has feelings for you, as long as I don't give up, she can only be my wife in this life. I immediately stared at James and asked, What do you mean? Sophia doesn't like you. What's going on? James found himself having let the cat out of the bag. He felt a little remorseful. He gritted his teeth. However, he soon relaxed. He shrugged, said nonchalantly, It doesn't matter if I tell you, even if you know the truth. What can you do about it? Sophia really doesn't love me, but she feels guilty towards me. After listening to James, I realized that Sophia had been hiding something from everyone. Sophia is a famous businesswoman in City A, but when she first started her business, she had a partner named Emily. The two worked together and supported each other. That's how the foundation of the Johnson Group was laid. To Sophia, Emily was not only her most important partner, but also her best friend. What's more, Emily's boyfriend at the time was James. Unfortunately, fate was not on their side. The day the Johnson Group went public, the brakes on the car they were in failed. Emily tried to protect Sophia and threw herself in front of the car. She was seriously injured. Before she died, Emily tightly grasped Sophia's hand. "Sophia, I don't have any parents. Apart from you, James is the only one I care about. Please take care of him in the future." Sophia cried her heart out. Without hesitation, she promised, "Okay, I will take good care of James." At Emily's funeral, James publicly made 3 promises to Sophia. Sophia was immersed in the grief of losing her best friend and remembered the promise she had made to her best friend on his deathbed. She agreed on the spot. But Sophia didn't realize that James' 3 requests were so outrageous. Emily and James had planned to get married after the group went public. So on the day they were scheduled to get married, James said his first words to Sophia. "Sophia, let's get married." Sophia was very surprised, but James immediately made his second request. "Don't tell anyone the truth." Seeing Sophia's hesitation, James' eyes filled with tears. It was as if he had suffered a great injustice. He said, "Sophia, Emily died to save you. You promised her that you would take care of me. Have you been lying to her this whole time? I just want a family. I won't be a burden to you." Sophia finally relented. James coaxed and persuaded her to go and get the marriage certificate. "Later, Sophia met me. We fell in love. We decided to get married." To cover up the lie, she forged a marriage certificate, but she never imagined James, who had promised to behave himself, would suddenly get into such big trouble. "She is now pregnant. She dares not come to see me." James gave a cunning smile. "My final request to her was to bear me a child. She insisted that I not touch her. It must be done in a test tube. But once the baby is born, she and I will never be apart again. Daniel, your weight alone is nothing compared to Emily's child and my weight in Sophia's heart. Today I'm giving you your final warning. Be smart and leave Sophia alone." I watched James strut away. My legs gave way. I slid down the wall. Just as my mind was in a complete mess, the lights in the operating room suddenly went out. I quickly got up. When I saw the body covered in a white sheet, I froze. The doctor said helplessly, "The patient had a heart attack. He didn't survive. He's already passed away." I stared blankly at my father's body. I kept repeating, "No, no, no, Dad can't be dead. He wouldn't leave me alone." The doctor looked sympathetic. He could only comfort me by telling me to be strong. That day, my sobs sounded especially lonely in the corridor. This time there was no one behind me. After my father was cremated, I summoned up the courage to call Sophia, but the phone was quickly hung up. I stared at my father's portrait on the wall. His gaze was cold. "Dad, I will avenge you." Sophia didn't answer the phone. I quickly sent her a few messages. "Sophia, my father has passed away. Before he left, he hoped that we could make up. You said you would give me an explanation. Tomorrow, the embankment by the bridge. I'll be waiting. Don't let me down again." The next day, I did as the text message said, holding my father's urn. I sat alone on a stone bench. Someone on the road recognized me, casting undisguised contemptuous glances. I calmly accepted the stares of passers-by. I even took the initiative to start a live broadcast with my account. Since the affair with my lover, my social media platforms have been completely invaded by netizens. So as soon as the broadcast started, many netizens flocked in. The live broadcast room was immediately flooded with nasty comments. "How dare the man have an affair and then show his face? Is he addicted to being insulted? People like you destroy other people's families. You really deserve to be punished. Making money by unscrupulous means. You make your parents ashamed." I saw this comment. There was a change in his eyes. He said, "My father died 2 days ago. He listened to me instead of stopping." The netizens just got more excited. "Serves you right, raising a son like you. Your parents must not be good people either. There really is retribution for good and evil. Since your father is gone, why don't you follow him?" The chat box kept flashing messages telling me to die. At that moment, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. I saw James strutting arrogantly towards me. "Daniel, what are you waiting for? You don't really think Sophia is coming, do you?" I quickly hid my phone. Turning to James, I asked, "Why are you here?" I sent Sophia a text. Of course I got there first. James laughed triumphantly. Before Sophia gives birth to my child, you won't see her. She only thinks you're having a temper tantrum, so she won't risk being exposed by meeting you. After saying that, he slowly looked at the urn I placed on the stone bench. These are your father's ashes. I didn't think your father was so useless. I only said a few words. He couldn't hold on. Haha, then how about today? I'll help you dispose of the ashes. Seeing James' intentions, I immediately rushed over and held him back tightly. Don't touch my father's ashes. I resisted firmly. James, however, was even more unyielding. His voice was low. His tone was contemptuous. He grabbed my wrist tightly and said, "You can't even keep your wife. What makes you think you can compete with me today? I'll let you taste what it's like to have everything destroyed." Out of James's sight, my live streaming viewers began to wonder, what did James mean by that? Wasn't Daniel her lover? Why did he say he couldn't even keep his wife? Every time we did a live stream in the past, James always looked like a victim. Today, it felt like he had completely changed. James doesn't know anything. He still wants to scatter my father's ashes. We struggled. Before we knew it, we were close to the shore. Suddenly, a woman's voice shouted urgently, "Daniel." James's eyes widened in surprise. I took advantage of the fact that Sophia wasn't paying attention and quietly took hold of his hand. Then I fell backwards violently. The old fence gave way under the force of my body. It snapped. Sophia's eyes widened. She rushed over to me and shouted, "Don't jump." She watched me fall into the river. Her face was full of despair. Except for the splash I made when I fell, now there was not even a trace of me in the river. James didn't expect me to fall into the river either. He said to Sophia in a panic, "Sophia, it's not what you think. I just wanted to take the urn behind Daniel. I didn't intend to push him in." James' eyes were red. He skillfully played the victim in front of Sophia. Every time he did something wrong in the past, just show weakness like this. It always moved Sophia's heart. But this time, Sophia was like crazy. She gave him a slap. "You still don't admit it." "I saw it with my own eyes. You pushed Daniel off the building. You're the murderer." Murderer. James was almost unable to recover from the slap. He didn't expect Sophia to show up here, and he didn't expect me to fight so hard. Sophia gritted her teeth. She yelled at him. If I hadn't watched Daniel's live broadcast, I would still be kept in the dark. "You said it was just a minor matter. He's gone. Why did you have to cause Daniel's family so much grief?" Sophia was full of anger. James saw this. He immediately knelt down. "Sophia, please don't stare at me like that. I really didn't mean it. Help me." Sophia tightly embraced my father's urn. She was no longer polite to James. "If Daniel really is gone, I definitely won't let you off the hook." The rescue team arrived quickly. They searched for hours along the place where I fell into the water, but they found nothing. Sophia heard the news that I might be dead. Her legs gave way. She collapsed to the ground. Sophia was not long pregnant. The fall caused her to bleed between her legs. The people around her quickly called an ambulance. As the paramedics lifted Sophia onto the stretcher, James held onto her hand tightly. He kept begging her, "Sophia, don't leave me. I don't want to go to prison. Have you forgotten your promise to Emily? You said you would always protect me. Are you going to go back on your word?" Sophia's face is pale. Her lips are pale. She looks at James. Her eyes are full of regret and resentment. "I did promise Emily, but if I had known that this would cost Daniel his life, I would never have let you go on like this. Daniel was my bottom line. You killed him. I have to do justice for him." After I fell into the river, the audience in the broadcast room immediately called the police. There is only one nearby camera. From the footage, it can only be seen that it was James who pushed me when I fell into the water. James had hoped Sophia would help him get away with it. But when that didn't work, despite his desperate struggles, he was taken away by the police. My live broadcast that day and the relationship between the three of us hit the top of the search engine results that day. After Sophia was taken to the hospital, the bleeding stopped, but she asked the doctor to perform an abortion. She said, "I thought if I gave birth to this child, I wouldn't owe James anything. I could live a good life with Daniel. Now that Daniel is gone, there's no need to keep this child." After the abortion, Sophia opened her live stream with a pale face. Before, Daniel asked me to tell the truth, but I kept stalling. Now that Daniel is gone, I regret it. Daniel's innocence, I must prove it for him today. After watching for so long, the netizens finally got the truth. The truth about what happened a few years ago has finally been revealed. Sophia is lying in her hospital bed. Her face is full of relief. She never dared to tell me the secret. She finally spoke after I died. Those netizens who thought they were being righteous and scolded me for defending James. They were stunned when they learned the truth. Wow, there were actually two reversals in this incident. It turns out that the lover was the real husband, and James was completely taking advantage of the kindness to seek repayment. In the end, Daniel really is having the worst luck. He lost his job. His father died of anger at James. And in the end, he lost his home, and he lost his wife. James is a terrible person. He really went too far. Why didn't he die instead? But don't just blame James. Was Sophia right? She wanted to repay the favor. Why did she have to get Daniel involved? Meeting these two people, Daniel really is having the worst luck. The online opinion suddenly reversed. Sophia looks so regretful. It makes me feel so good. I didn't really fall into the river. When Sophia hung up on me earlier, I knew without James' help I would have a hard time contacting Sophia again. I sent her a text message on purpose. Actually, it was to lure James to meet me. I knew Sophia was always watching my social media accounts, so I started the live stream just for her. I arranged for Sophia to see James push me into the river. Then I took advantage of my good swimming skills. I hid behind a pillar on the bridge across the river. While Sophia and James were arguing, I slipped away quietly. I was betting on Sophia's feelings for me. I was betting that she would completely break up with James because of this. Luckily, I won the bet. I knew that I couldn't hide the fake death, but I wanted James to become as notorious as me. I want him to become as notorious as I am. Even after the three of us revealed our relationship, Sophia still refused to give up. She personally carried my father's ashes. She handed the surveillance footage that the bodyguard took from me to the police. James not only caused Daniel's death, but also indirectly caused the death of my father-in-law. James saw Sophia's mercilessness. He couldn't help but yell, "Sophia, why are you doing this to me? Where have I wronged you over the years? It's because of Daniel you want me to take his place. I've known you longer than him. Why can't you pay attention to me?" Sophia closed her eyes. Her voice was once again full of tears. "If it weren't for Emily, I would have to take you down myself." Just as everyone was waiting to see James go to prison, the police still found clues to my fake death. After understanding my situation, the police did not scold me severely after questioning. He just patted me on the shoulder and said, "Young man, things will work out. Go home." Sophia was both excited and nervous when she received the news from the police and waited outside the police station. When she saw me in one piece, she threw her arms around me and cried, "Daniel, you're alive. That's wonderful. I've already explained everything to the internet community. No one will ever insult you again." She continued, "Let's start over." "Okay," I pushed her away. Her eyes no longer held the tenderness they once did. "Sophia, late-coming feelings are worthless. I don't want them anymore." James and I walked out of the police station together. He had been arrested because he was suspected of trying to kill me. But now I was alive. That charge no longer applied. James had bailed himself out with money. He was accused of intentional assault and indirectly causing my father's death. When he saw me, he was furious. He said, "Daniel, you dare to set me up, just you wait, I'm out of jail anyway. I'll find a way to clear my name. You've done all this. What's the point? I'll still get away with it." Watching James, who had no idea what had happened online, I couldn't hide my smile. "Really? You deliberately broke the brakes to get close to Sophia. Emily died as a result. You really think no one will find out?" The more I said, the paler James' face became. He stuttered, What are you talking about?" Sophia looked at me in surprise. She didn't understand why I had suddenly brought up that accident from years ago. In hindsight, it was quite a stroke of luck. I had only wanted to teach James a lesson, to make him suffer the consequences. I never expected things to get so out of hand. One of the netizens left a comment online. "I remember this James guy. 7 years ago when I was an apprentice at the 4S shop. He drove a Porsche Cayenne over. He said it was a scrap car and asked me to cut the brakes. I didn't think much of it and did it. Later, in the car accident on the Cross River Bridge, I saw with my own eyes that the car that crashed was the one James drove over. I was afraid of getting into trouble and never mentioned it. Now looking back, this could be a conspiracy. James saw this message. His guilty conscience was almost unable to hide, but he still held on. He slapped my phone away. He said, "Don't talk nonsense. Emily and I are about to get married." How could I do such a thing? I didn't argue with him. I just wanted to make Sophia a little suspicious. Sure enough, Sophia stared at James warily. Her voice trembled, but she was very firm. "I will definitely find out the truth about this matter. James, if you really had something to do with it, I will never let you off the hook." As soon as Sophia finished speaking, she immediately called her assistant and asked him to reinvestigate the car accident 7 years ago. Before she could finish speaking, James, who was feeling anxious, couldn't help but and snatched Sophia's phone away from her. He knew, with Sophia's current skills, it would be easy for her to find out the truth. James finally couldn't hold back and yelled, "Sophia, Daniel said anything and you believed it. I've been by your side for so many years, but you've never shown me any sincerity. 7 years ago, it was indeed me who tampered with the car, but I did it all for you. Do you know, I've liked you since college. If it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to get close to you, I would never have ended up with Emily. I traded Emily's life for 3 wishes. I just wanted to be with you forever. But why did you fall in love with Daniel? What is it about him that is so good?" Hearing James's nonsense, Sophia took 2 steps back in horror. She thought about the 7 years she had been deceived. Her best friend had lost her life because of it, and she had lost her family. Sophia screamed, "You're crazy, you've ruined so many people's lives. You'll definitely get your comeuppance. Call the police. Daniel, hurry up and call the police." James suddenly burst out laughing. The way he looked at Sophia changed from adoration to hatred. "Call the police. Sophia, you really want me to go to hell? Fine, since you definitely won't love me, I'll let you hate me for the rest of your life," he said as he quickly grabbed a steel pipe from the floor. "Since I'm going to hell, Daniel, you're not going to have an easy time either. Get out of my way." James swung the steel pipe at me recklessly. I couldn't dodge at all. As soon as I heard the sound of a skull cracking, I opened my eyes. I found Sophia blocking in front of me. She suddenly vomited blood. The sharp iron pieces of the steel pipe had cut her throat. She fell to the ground covered in blood. She was still saying to me with a bloody face, "Run," seeing Sophia thinking of me even in her final moments. James's eyes suddenly turned red. He roared, "None of you will get away with this. You're all going to die," just as he raised the steel pipe to hit me. There was a sudden gunshot behind me. The police, who had arrived in time, quickly subdued James, who had already lost control. He almost killed me. But now he broke down in tears in front of the police, shouting, "Why was it so close? I wanted Daniel to die with me. Let me go. I want to settle scores with him." But this time, he still failed. She was taken to the hospital. She was resuscitated for an hour. The doctor still shook his head at me. This was the second time I had experienced life and death apart. My heart was strangely numb. In Sophia's final moments, her assistant entered the resuscitation room first. After a while, the assistant said to me with red eyes, "Sir, Sophia wants to talk to you. Please, for the sake of Sophia's limited time, grant her this last wish." I walked stiffly towards the resuscitation room. Sophia on the operating table looked lifeless. She probably sensed me coming. She opened her eyes with difficulty. Then she managed a weak smile. "Daniel, you're here. I'm sorry for this life. I always thought I could control everything, but I forgot that you're also a human being. I forgot. You can also feel pain. You can also feel suffering. It's my indecision and irresoluteness that has led to this situation. Daniel, if I could do it all over again, would you forgive me?" Looking at Sophia's expectant eyes, I finally bowed my head. "Hate will not disappear. The mist between you and me is not in the past. It was wrong from the beginning. If I could do it all over again, I definitely would not start over with you." After hearing my reply, the light in Sophia's eyes completely disappeared. She slowly shed a tear. closed her eyes with a bitter smile. It was still me who wronged you. After Sophia came out of the operating room, her assistant handed me a will. Sophia signed the will after I went in. Since Sophia was still legally married to James, she made a special will. She left all the property in her name to me. After Sophia was cremated, I took her ashes to the bridge across the river. She loved freedom. She once told me, "I hope that after I die, my ashes can be scattered into the sky." I stood by the river. I let the wind blow through me. I looked up at the sky. I followed the last speck of ash as it drifted into the river. Sophia, goodbye. The sun set. My first half of life came to an end. From now on, the second half of my life begins.